Alright, please, you have to please stop. Yes, where did we stop? Are we now functions of the respiratory system? Okay. Have we done mechanisms of respiration? No. Okay. We are really going to be a bit fast. It's permitting to sit down. Both age as well. So mechanism of respiration, mechanism of breathing. Mechanism of breathing. Mechanism of respiration. Mechanic of respiration. In this topic, we want to deal with how air is taken in from the atmosphere or environment into the body, and how air leaves the body to the external environment. Like I said in the previous class, it is not enough to just note that you're taking oxygen from the environment and bring out carbon dioxide through the nose. As medical students or students in College of Medicine, you are expected to know the mechanism by which all of this happen. There are respiratory pressures that are acting in your system that enables you to take in oxygen and bring out carbon dioxide. The thoracic muscles and the thoracic cavity, including the volume of the lungs, are also changing during inspiration and expiration. So, we are going to look at all of these things today. And they are very, very simple mechanisms that you all are going to find very, very interesting. So that when you travel to the village and your grandmother asks you, how do we take in oxygen and bring out carbon dioxide? You'll be able to explain these mechanisms. Alright? Good. So, the question would be, what is mechanism of respiration? Respiratory mechanism. Respiratory mechanism is concerned with the changes. It deals with the changes that occur in the thoracic muscle, thoracic cavity, the lung volume, and respiratory pressures. mechanism of respiration is concerned, when it changes that occurs in the thoracic muscles, the thoracic cavity, the lung volume, and the respiratory pressures. Some people are not even jotting because they are very, very intelligent. So these things I'm saying, they are picking them in their brain. Very, very intelligent students. And I love intelligent students who don't jot anything in class. These students are the ones who, pass with A's in the exam. When you see such students, go close to them, make them your friends. Anytime a lecturer is in class teaching, they don't jot. Their brain will be recording everything. They are super intelligent. Okay. This mechanism of respiration can occur in 5 steps. First is that the respiratory muscles will either contract or relax. And the contraction and relaxation of the respiratory muscles will cause movement of the thoracic walls, that is the ribs, and the abdomen. This movement of the ribs or thoracic wall will in turn cause either an increase or decrease in the thoracic cavity, or simply put, the lungs volume. I say the movement of the thoracic wall or the ribs and the abs will cause either an increase or a decrease in the lung volume. This will in turn, that is, an increase or decrease in lung volume will lead to changes in the respiratory pressure. So it's either the respiratory pressures are increasing or decreasing. These changes in respiratory pressure is what leads to inspiration or expiration. So all of these changes helps a human being to bring out air or take in air. For example, let's take respiration. Inspiration. For example, let's take inspiration. If you take in air, first, the respiratory muscles will they contract or relax. Yes? During inspiration, what happens to respiratory muscle? Does it contract? Does it contract? Are you sure? Okay. Let's say it contracts. The contraction of the respiratory muscles would lead to upward or downward movement of the thoracic wall. Upwards, we are looking at inspiration. So when you breathe in air, you will notice that the chest wall moves upwards and outward. Inspiration. So there is movement, upward movement of the thoracic wall. This upward movement of the thoracic wall, will it lead to an increase or decrease in lung volume? Will it cause the lung volume to expand? Good. It's going to cause expansion of the lung volume. So, the lung volume increases. And what happens to respiratory pressures? Does it increase or decrease? Yes? Yes? It decreases. It increases. Okay. Volume increases. Respiratory pressure does what? It does what? It increases. So your own respiratory pressure will increase. My own will not. Mine will not. Respiratory pressure will decrease. Alright? During inspiration. If volume increases, pressure will decrease. You will get to know all of that in this class. Now, when the respiratory pressures are decreasing, air moves in from the atmosphere into the lungs. This is just a summary of everything that happens when you inspire air. The opposite trend of the event occurs during expiration. Okay? Fantastic. Okay. We now have to look at muscles of respiration. Muscles of respiration. The primary muscle of respiration is the diaphragm. Okay? Primary muscle of respiration is the diaphragm. Also, the intercostal muscles fall under primary muscles of respiration, while others are accessories. You will get to know this as we proceed, although we have intercostal muscles classified as accessory on the slide. But primary muscles of respiration, you have the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. Every other one is accessory, like the scaling muscles, sternocleidomastoid muscle, pectoralis major muscle. And then you have the abdominal muscles, the rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, and the external and internal oblique muscles. These muscles of respiration can be classified into muscles of inspiration and muscles of expiration. Are we together? Are we together? Yes, sir. Good. Primary muscles of inspiration are the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles. And then the other ones are accessory. Alright? As mentioned previously. And then the muscles of expiration. Expiration include the internal intercostal muscles, the innermost intercostal muscles, subcostal muscles, transversus thoracic muscle. And then you have abdominal muscles such as the external oblique, internal oblique, the transversus abdominis, and rectus abdominis. Alright, I believe that is clear. The external intercostal muscle are the muscles that are outside the ribs, covering the rib cavity or thoracic cavity. And then the internal intercostal muscles are those muscles that are inside the thoracic cavity. So the diagram here simply tells you which one is external and which one is internal. Red or yellow? Which one? Red is what? Red is external, internal, both. Did you say internal and external? Or none of the above? Okay. Continue. Alright. Alright, like I said previously, the diaphragm is the dominant muscle of respiration. Okay? Now, this slide shows you what happens to the diaphragm during respiratory cycle. Over here we have inspiration. Okay? The young man here is taking in oxygen. And then what happens to the diaphragm? You will note that there is downward movement of the diaphragm. Okay? Normally, the diaphragm has a dumbbell shape. Alright? But at this point, the yellow color I just made from the diaphragm, when it is in its normal shape, it is relaxed. But during inspiration, it contracts and it moves downwards. Okay? It moves downwards. And that downward movement can cause elevation of the ribs and the volume of the lungs becomes increased or expanded. However, during expiration, you will see that the diaphragm returns to its normal shape. Alright? And it relaxes, causing air to flow from the lungs to the external environment. We shall come back to this later on. Good. We will now have to look at layers of the lungs to be able to understand the mechanism of respiration. We are going somewhere. I'm just giving you a beautiful background to the topic. Layers of the lungs. The lungs is covered by two main layers. You have one as the parietal pleural. Okay? This layer is the outer layer or covering of the lungs. And then the other one is the visceral pleural. And this layer actually is the innermost layer covering the lungs. Now, in between the visceral pleural and the parietal pleural is the space or the cavity. We are talking about this space here. And that space is known as the pleural cavity. I repeat, in between the visceral pleural and the parietal pleural is a space known as the pleural cavity. I hope that is taken. Yes, sir. Fantastic. Okay, going forward, we now have to look at the respiratory pressures and the changes that occurs in the respiratory pressures to enable you to take in oxygen and bring out carbon dioxide. There are 6 kinds or types of respiratory pressures. There are 6 types of respiratory pressures. Number 1 is the atmospheric pressure, also known as the barometric pressure. Okay, atmospheric or barometric pressure. Number 2 is the intra-pulmonary or intra-alveolar pressure. Number C is the intra-pleural pressure. Alright? Then we have others. Number 4 is known as the trans-pulmonary pressure. Number 5 is the trans-respiratory pressure. Number 6 is the trans-thoracic pressure. Did you get that? Good. Let's define these pressures and look at their normal values. Beginning with number 1, atmospheric pressure. The definition is simple. Name will always have meaning. So this atmospheric pressure is the pressure in the atmosphere. The atmosphere, the pressure in the atmosphere. Normal value of the atmospheric pressure is 760 millimeters of mercury. The atmospheric pressure is 760 millimeters of mercury. The intra-pulmonary pressure is the pressure in the lungs. Intra-pulmonary pressure is the pressure in the lungs, inside your lungs. There is a pressure there known as intra-pulmonary pressure, also known as intra-alveolar pressure. And the normal value is same as the atmospheric pressure, which is 760 millimeters of mercury. Then we have the intra-pleural pressure. This pressure is the pressure in the pleural cavity. You remember the diagram I showed you earlier? The pleural cavity is the space between what and what? Good, good. You are following. I'm overjoyed. So this intrapleural pressure is the pressure in the pleural cavity. And the normal value is 756 millimeters of mercury, which means it is slightly lower than the atmospheric pressure and the intra-pulmonary pressure. Good, but in the respiratory tract, the atmospheric pressure is 0 millimeters of mercury. Alright? I repeat, in the respiratory tract, the atmospheric pressure is 0 millimeters of mercury. The intra-pulmonary pressure is also 0 millimeters of mercury. However, the intra-pleural pressure is -4 millimeters of mercury. I hope you got that. I said, in the respiratory tract, atmospheric pressure is 0 millimeters of mercury. Intra-pulmonary pressure is 0 millimeters of mercury. And then the intra-pulmonary pleural pressure, intra-pleural pressure is -4 millimeters of mercury. How did we come about this? It's simple. 756 minus 760. What will it give you? Or -4 millimeters of mercury. Okay? 760 minus 760. 0. So how we came to these values is simple. You take the difference between the intra-pleural pressure and the atmospheric pressure. The pressure in the pleural cavity and atmospheric pressure. That is 756 minus 760. you get 0, you get -4 millimeters of mercury. And then for the intra-pulmonary pressure, it's simple. It's the difference between the intra-pulmonary pressure and atmospheric pressure. So it's 760 minus 760, which is 0 millimeters of mercury. Having said that, okay, I've already said this. Atmospheric pressure in the respiratory tract is 0 millimeters of mercury. Intra-pleural, intra-pulmonary pressure is 0, and the intra-pleural pressure is -4 millimeters of mercury. Okay? Alright, we have also defined this earlier. And this. Okay. Trans-pulmonary pressure. Trans-pulmonary pressure. This pressure is the pressure that exists between the intra-pulmonary pressure and intra-pleural pressure. Alright? Trans-pulmonary pressure is the pressure that exists between the intra-pulmonary pressure and the intra-pleural pressure. So here we have the lungs. Inside the lungs is the pressure known as what? Known as what? Intra-pulmonary pressure. So that pressure is right inside your lungs. Okay? And the intra-pleural pressure is the pressure that exists where? At the pleural cavity. Alright? Okay. Then, trans-pulmonary pressure. What's happening? Trans-pulmonary. What happened? Can you hear me? Well, the sound is somehow. What's causing this echo? Where are the ICT gurus here? We don't have ICT gurus here. Okay. The trans-pulmonary pressure is the pressure that goes from the lungs to the pleural cavity. So from this point down to this point. I think our battery is there. Welcome. that thing plugged? Is it charging?
No, it's not charging.
Where's the charger? Is the charger there? Plug it. Plug it in. Take it there. Take it there. Hello? Okay. So, we are still on trans-pulmonary pressure. So that pressure is the pressure that exists between the lungs, pressure in the lungs, to the pleural cavity. Mathematically, the trans-pulmonary pressure is simply the difference of intra-pulmonary pressure and intra-pleural pressure. Mathematically, the trans-pulmonary pressure is the pressure difference, of the intra-pulmonary pressure and the intra-pleural pressure. Okay, so what is the value for intra-pulmonary pressure? Yes? Intra-pulmonary pressure. What? 76. It is 0 millimeters of mercury. Alright? The value for intra-pulmonary pressure. What is the value? 0 millimeters of mercury. What is the value for intra-pleural pressure? Minus 4 millimeters of mercury. So 0 minus 4 will give you what? Will give you what? 0 minus 4 will give you what? That is positive 4. So the trans-pulmonary pressure, normal value is plus 4 millimeters of mercury. This implies that this pressure is a positive pressure, and it helps the lungs to inflate. It helps the lungs to do what? Inflate. Meaning that it helps the lungs to be filled with air from the atmosphere. Okay. Moving on. The trans-respiratory pressure. Trans-respiratory pressure. This is the pressure that exists between the intra-pulmonary or the lungs and the atmosphere. The pressure that exists between the lungs and the atmosphere. Alright? So over here we have pressure in the lungs. Intra-pulmonary pressure. And over here we have the pressure in the atmosphere. Okay? So this pressure goes from the lungs to the atmosphere. So mathematically, automatically the trans